Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. When we first got together, it felt like the start of something truly special. My wife and I were at each other's first loves, first experiences in every way. We came from sheltered backgrounds, and finding each other felt like a new chapter in our lives where we could experience freedom, love, and a deeper connection. For 3 years before our marriage, we grew closer, learning about each other's hopes, dreams, and fears. We were each other's everything, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. As our wedding approached, we talked about what our future together would look like: kids, a home, a life of shared memories. But we also talked about something a bit unusual: having one final wild experience before fully committing to the traditional married life. We had lived fairly sheltered lives and had never really been adventurous or taken risks. So, when we met another couple who suggested group sex, it sparked something in both of us. This could be our way of stepping outside of our comfort zones before we tied the knot and started a family. After much discussion, we decided to go for it, believing it would be a one-time thing that we could look back on as a crazy memory from our pre-marriage days. The experience happened as planned, or so I thought. We had sex with the other couple, and afterward, I remember feeling a mixture of adrenaline, relief, and a strange sense of finality. This was our last wild moment before marriage. What I didn't know was that, after I had gone to rest, my wife continued to have sex with the other husband. According to her, during this encounter, the other man removed the condom midway through and ejaculated inside her. She kept this a secret from me for over 2 decades. At the time, I had no idea anything had gone wrong. We got married shortly after, and soon we were expecting our first child. I never questioned anything. We were happy. My wife and I became parents, and life moved forward. Our son grew up, and I always saw him as my own flesh and blood. There was never any doubt in my mind that he was mine, as he resembled me in so many ways, not just physically but in personality and mannerisms too. He was, and still is, my son. 21 years after that night, my wife suddenly suggested that we go to couples therapy. I was surprised, but I agreed because, like any marriage, ours wasn't perfect, and I believed therapy could help us work through any lingering issues. After a couple of sessions, my wife finally revealed what had been haunting her all these years. She wasn't sure if our son was mine. Her confession hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She explained what had happened that night: the other man taking off the condom without her knowledge and her fear that our son might not be mine. I was shocked that she had kept this from me for so long. For 21 years, she carried this secret, and it wasn't until now that she felt ready to share it with me. Her reason for withholding the truth was that she feared I would leave her and our child if I found out when he was younger. Hearing that she had doubts about me as a partner back then hurt deeply. She admitted that at the time of our son's conception, she wasn't sure if I was reliable enough to stay with her if I found out the truth. It hurt even more knowing she had considered leaving me before we had kids, but decided to stay when she got pregnant. I was overwhelmed by feelings of betrayal, anger, and confusion. Now here we are, planning to take a paternity test to determine whether our son is biologically mine. The very thought of this breaks my heart. This boy, no, this young man, has been my son for over 2 decades. I've watched him grow, guided him through life, and shared countless moments that have bonded us as father and son. I never once questioned his paternity because to me he was always mine. But now doubts plague me. My wife's revelation has shaken me to my core. I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, questioning everything. Could this young man, whom I love so deeply, not be my biological child? If the test reveals that he isn't mine, how will that change things? I can't imagine abandoning him. He's my son in every way that matters. But the uncertainty gnaws at me. I wonder if I'll look at him differently, even though I don't want to. My wife claims the conception date might have been miscalculated because her periods were irregular, but the doubt is there. I'm left wondering if she's telling me the full truth. Did she really only have sex with the other man after I was resting, or was there more going on that she hasn't admitted? If she kept this secret from me for so long, what else could she be hiding? This entire situation has taken an immense emotional toll on me. I feel betrayed, not just because of the possibility that our son might not be mine, but because my wife kept this secret from me for over 2 decades. I thought we were partners in everything, that we had each other's backs, but now I'm questioning the foundation of our relationship. It feels like a form of betrayal, even if it wasn't a typical affair. She says she didn't technically cheat, but it still feels like she crossed a line that we both agreed we wouldn't. And the fact that she kept this from me for so long makes me wonder how much she really trusted me. How could she believe that I would abandon her and our child? I thought she knew me better than that. This secret has cast a shadow over everything we've built together, and I don't know how to move forward from here. Another layer to this situation is our son. We're going to have to explain to him why we need to do a paternity test. I don't want to lie to him, but at the same time, I don't want him to know the full extent of what happened that night. How do you tell your child that their very existence is tied to a secret that could have torn their family apart? How do you navigate such a delicate conversation without causing more harm than good? I'm afraid of how this will affect him. Will he feel betrayed by both of us? Will it change the way he sees me? Even if the test confirms that I'm his biological father. I've always been his dad, and I want that to remain unchanged, but I fear that this situation could alter our relationship in ways I can't predict. As we wait for the results of the paternity test, I find myself at a crossroads. No matter the outcome, this revelation has fundamentally altered my marriage and my relationship with my wife. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild, and I'm not sure where we go from here. Can we ever fully recover from this, or will this secret continue to haunt us, even if we try to move forward? I want to believe that we can work through this, that our love and commitment to each other will be enough to overcome the damage that's been done. But the doubts remain, and I can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning of a much larger reckoning. The weight of this secret, the questions it raises about our past and our future, looms large over everything. For now, all I can do is take it one day at a time and hope that, whatever the outcome, we can find a way to heal and move forward, both as a family and as individuals. When the paternity test results came back, my world collapsed. Negative. It was like a punch to the gut, one I couldn't recover from. Everything I had ever known, everything I believed in, shattered in a single moment. The boy I had raised as my own was not my biological son. The terrible truth I had hoped to avoid was laid bare in cold, merciless facts. My wife was next to me when I opened the envelope. Her face reflected a mix of guilt, fear, and some kind of uncertain hope. But I couldn't muster the strength to console her or even acknowledge her presence. All my emotions were consumed by one question. What now? I didn't know what to do. I stared at the paper in my hands, unable to let go of it. Thoughts were racing through my mind. 21 years, so many memories, so much love, so many sacrifices. And now it all seemed like a mistake, a lie built on silence and fear. How could I continue to live with this knowledge? How could I continue to trust the woman who had kept such a significant truth from me for our entire life together? My wife was the first to speak. She apologized again and tried to explain how she had been afraid that I would leave her and our son. She cried, attempting to justify her decision not to tell me the truth all those years ago. But her words were lost somewhere deep in my mind. I couldn't hear them anymore. Every time I looked at our son, it hurt. He wasn't him. I couldn't suddenly erase all those years of memories, but every detail reminded me that it was all a lie. I had raised someone else's child. He was not mine, even though I had loved him with all my heart. My wife seemed determined to fix things, suggesting we continue therapy, talk to professionals, and help me process these emotions. But I wasn't sure I wanted to. I was too hurt, too shaken to understand if anything could be fixed. Every conversation with her burned like fire, reminding me that I could no longer trust her. One of the hardest things was finding a way to talk to our son. We had to explain to him what had happened, but how? How do you tell your child that he's not your biological son? How do you explain that the paternity test was negative and that his true origins were tied to an event we'd all rather forget? We sat him down for the conversation. My wife tried to take responsibility, explaining that she had made a mistake years ago. I sat there silently, unsure of what to say. How could I say anything that would ease the pain or confusion our son was feeling? When he finally understood what we were telling him, his face turned pale and his eyes filled with tears. "So you're not my dad?" It wasn't a question. It was a statement that broke his heart. I tried to explain that, despite the test results, he would always be my son. But I could see that this knowledge deeply hurt him. He got up and left without saying another word. Our home became filled with coldness. We lived like strangers. My son stopped talking to me, and his relationship with his mother deteriorated as well. Every time I saw him, I saw not only the boy I had loved and raised, but also the imprint of the betrayal we were all now burdened with. I tried to console myself with the thought that parenthood isn't just about biology. I was the one who had been there all those years. I had raised him, loved him, and protected him. But every time I tried to cling to that love, I hit a wall of resentment and pain. My thoughts constantly turned to divorce. How could I continue living with a woman who had kept such an important truth from me for so many years? How could we rebuild trust after such a devastating lie? We discussed it once. My wife begged me to give her a chance, to give our family a chance. She told me she still loved me, that she regretted what she had done, and that she was willing to work on our marriage. But I wasn't sure I had the strength for that. Despite my doubts, I decided to give her a chance. We continued therapy, trying to figure out if there was a way to reconcile with the situation. Our son joined some of the sessions as well, and although it was painful, I knew it was necessary to try and rebuild at least some of the broken relationships. The therapist suggested we work on forgiveness. I wasn't sure I could forgive. How does one forgive such a deep betrayal? How does one forgive years filled with lies and secrets? But I knew one thing: if I didn't try, I would always regret not having done so. Forgiveness doesn't come easily. It's a long process, and it requires an enormous amount of effort from both sides. We started with small steps toward rebuilding communication. We were honest with each other, even when the truth hurt. Gradually, step by step, we began to form a new relationship based on honesty and trust. As for my son, our bond slowly started to recover. I made it clear to him that despite the fact that he wasn't my biological child, I would always be his father. It wasn't easy for him. It also took time to come to terms with the truth. But over time, I began to see signs that our relationship was mending. Now, as the dust begins to settle, I realize that life doesn't always turn out the way we expect. Sometimes it throws challenges at us that seem insurmountable, but through the pain and trials, we can find a new way forward. My wife and I are still working on our marriage, but I can see that we have a chance to rebuild what was broken. As for my son, I know we have a long road ahead of us toward reconciliation, but I hope that eventually we can walk that path together. The end of one chapter became the beginning of another. The experience changed all of us, but I believe that in this new journey, we will find a way to become stronger and wiser than we ever were before.